and welcome to Primetime News on TV1, coming to you live and direct from Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. We've got the latest of news from here at home and across the globe lined up for you tonight. I'm Charlene Benedict.
And I'm Azra Hassan. Let's now take a look at the headlines for tonight.
Pakistan Prime Minister warns India that the country will retaliate in the face of an attack. Accomplice of Markandure Madhush, Velikande Kasun arrested. Raina, who was arrested yesterday, to be interrogated by the STF under detention orders. Speaker informs Ranjan Ramanayake to notify him in writing of ministers and parliamentarians who use narcotic substances. GMOA urges President to take over Health Ministry. Students of the Vidyaloka Primary School under the hot sun for long hours for a political event.
A group of representatives from the International Monetary Fund met Minister of Finance and Mass Media, Mangala Samravira, yesterday.
Ceylon FT reported that the delegation, led by IMF's mission chief for Sri Lanka, Manuela Goretti, held discussions with Minister Samravira at the Ministry of Finance. The focus of this meeting was the loan installment to be granted to Sri Lanka. The Governor of the Central Bank and the Secretary to the Treasury also joined the discussion. The IMF has disbursed 4 loan installments to Sri Lanka so far, and the 5th installment was supposed to be disbursed last November. However, owing to the political crisis that emerged in the country at the time, the 5th installment was halted temporarily. The finance minister had then called on the IMF in this regard in January 2019. Meanwhile, the island newspaper reports that a United Nations expert, Juan Pablo Bohoslavsk, who visited Sri Lanka last year, criticized the government for carrying out IMF recommendations without thinking of the impact they have on the poor. He also criticized the automatic market-based mechanism, also known as the pricing formula, introduced to fix fuel prices, stating that such measures could have serious negative impacts on the livelihoods of fishing, farming and rural communities. Bohoslavsk, who is the United Nations independent expert on the effects of foreign debt and other related international financial obligations of states on the full enjoyment of all human rights, particularly economic, social and cultural rights, has written a report on his visit, which will be presented to the 40th session of the Human Rights Council on February 28th. While the IMF's mission chief for Sri Lanka visited the island and held discussions with the Minister of Finance, the World Bank Vice President for the South Asian region, Hartwig Schaefer, was also in the island recently. He concluded a 3-day visit to Sri Lanka on Friday. He met and held discussions with President Maithripala Sirisena, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, Minister of Finance Mangala Samravira and the Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy, and a number of other high-ranking officials. Meanwhile, on Friday, a joint press release issued following the 22nd session of the European Union-Sri Lanka Joint Commission in Brussels yesterday stated, quote, "The EU reiterated its opposition to the use of the death penalty in all circumstances and encouraged Sri Lanka to maintain its moratorium on executions with a view to abolishing the death penalty," unquote. The EU release added Sri Lanka reaffirmed the commitments made to implement 27 conventions on human and labour rights, environment and good governance in order to benefit from the GSP Plus scheme.
The World Bank and the IMF continue to pressure countries like Sri Lanka to accept their terms and conditions. There is also discussion among the general public if we must accept all their terms. So doesn't Sri Lanka have sovereignty? Should we agree to all of these terms? Especially, we can see that there are no efforts being made to hold discussions on reducing the conditions imposed by the World Bank and the IMF. It was also reported that the GSP Plus concession will be cancelled if the death penalty is imposed. This is a decision we should make as the citizens of this country. How can we move forward as a country when these organizations keep pressurizing us? And why do we need a government if they are going to accept and impose all of their conditions? It would be better if the country was given to the IMF or the World Bank.
Leader of the Janata Vimukti Peramuna, Kumar Disanayaka, expressed these views at an event held in Colombo today.
Sri Lanka must pay a loan installment of $5,200 million this year. The situation is such that our country must continue to pay this debt installment until 2022. Our country is facing a debt crisis. We raise only one question. Will our children and the future generation face the same situation? Sri Lanka must be rebranded in the eyes of the international community. Sri Lanka is among the many countries trapped in debt. The international community has recognized Sri Lanka as a country stuck in a debt trap. Sri Lanka must rebrand itself in the eyes of the international community, and we will take over the responsibility to do so.
Rebrand karna wagakima apa visin bharagata yutu tibenawa.
MP Anura Kumara Dissanayake expressed these views during the national convention organised by the National Intellectuals Organisation in Colombo. A set of policies covering 10 categories including education, health and eradicating corruption was revealed today under the theme Let's Develop Sri Lanka.
As a group of conscious citizens who love their motherland, and as a group who has comprehended that Sri Lanka has no future due to the crisis that it has faced for more than 70 years, we have engaged in the formulation of a new set of policies that would suit our country. While watching the news, I witnessed an amusing concept. A dilapidated road in a village had been renovated. Even if these funds belong to the Pradesh Sabha, provincial councils or the government, ultimately these funds belong to the general public. However, at present, when such renovations take place and vested in the public, the respective ministers or MPs claim that it was his idea and concept. However, these funds do not include even a cent that belonged to the MP. I retired 10 years ago as the Secretary to the Ministry of Petroleum Resource Development. During my tenure, it was confirmed that the natural mineral oil deposit was located in the seas in Mannar. However, to date, Sri Lanka has failed to utilize any of these resources. There is no national policy in place that provides instructions on the utilization of such natural resources. When national policies are not in place, the country is vulnerable to mass-scale corruption.
Let's now take a look at our investigative news segment, Action TV.
There are no obstacles preventing four-wheeled vehicles from travelling to the Vidyaloka Primary School in Vedikumbura, Monaragala. This provided the opportunity for the Chief Minister of the Uva Province and parliamentarian Sumedhaji Jayasena to arrive at the premises of this school for an event yesterday in the comfort of their high-end luxury vehicles. However, the organisers of this event had taken steps to welcome these two guests at a distance of 1 kilometre from the school grounds. The use of school children inconvenienced for hours in pre-preparation, all for the sake of heaping praise and glory on politicians who are duty-bound to serve the people, must be condoned. The event was organised to declare open a primary educational centre, and the funds for its construction were provided by the Line Ministry. Regardless of being constructed by the Line Ministry or the Provincial Council, the money spent is provided by the taxpayers of the country, turning simple occurrences like these into massive celebrations and wasting the money and time of the very same taxpayers. The ruling class personifies the real image of their intention, which is disgusting to say the least. Besides these two guests, Minister Ranjit Madhumbandara also attended this event yesterday. Although academic activities of this primary school is scheduled to conclude at 1:30 p.m, the event was scheduled to begin at 2 p.m, and students were retained at the school premises after school hours. It is unlikely that the Chief Minister, who is also the Provincial Minister in charge of education, was unaware of this. A more serious mistake than the ones committed by the organisers of the event were committed by these esteemed guests who attended the event. While these innocent children were lined up from 1:45 p.m. to welcome the guests for the event scheduled to begin at 2 p.m, the guests did not attend the event on time. The children were exhausted after long hours under the sun, as the guests only decided to show up at 3:30 p.m, 1.5 hours late. The children at the school were then forced to listen to the boasting of these distinguished guests, who did not even have the courtesy to apologize for attending the event late. We thought that after the incident where children were used to hold the longest sari, these sort of events will stop. But what happened there? They said they will conduct investigations and take actions against these officials. But what are the actions that they took? There are none. The same will happen regarding this as well. So the President, the Minister for Education and the entire Cabinet should intervene in this matter and take action against this. Some tangible action should be taken against this incident. Shouldn't a circular be issued carrying the order that states laying of foundation stones and opening of school buildings should be considered regular events and not special occasions? Secretary to the Ministry of Education, this is over to you.
A media briefing was convened at the office of the opposition leader today. Details on the controversial tender awarded for the construction of an LNG power plant in Keravalapitia were discussed at the media briefing.
The German ambassador has clearly stated that as a result of awarding such tenders without transparency, no investors will come into Sri Lanka. In reply to this statement, the minister in charge of the subject says that the German ambassador should mind his own business and that he does not have the right to speak about awarding the tenders. He had also said that the American ambassador had called him and said that the presentation of the tenders was done very well. In the state sector of Lakdanaway company has all the required qualifications for the tender. Against such a backdrop, this tender was awarded to the Chinese company for a higher price to be paid in 20 years. While doing this, they are saying that the state sector institution will also be allowed to establish 2 power plants on the same plot of land. That cannot be done. So what they have done is given permission for the lowest bidder and the highest bidder to construct 2 power plants on the same plot of land. What laws and what procedures are they using to justify these actions? There is suspicion that these cabinet papers were submitted by the cabinet ministers who used cocaine.
නීති අනුව මොන ක්‍රමයටද කියලා කොකේන් ගහලා මේ කැබිනට් පත්‍රිකා පිළියෙල කරන කට්ටියක් ඉන්නවද කියන එක පිළිබඳව සැකයක් දැන් මතුවෙනවා 2020 දී ජනනය කරන්න තුච්ච
We have lost 300 megawatts of power that were to be generated in 2020 because of all of these incidences. It will take over 3 years to implement the projects after unraveling all these issues. This project is not the only one that has these issues. Considering what happened during the 3rd phase of the Central Expressway project, JICA came on the basis that they will be the concessionary loan for Japan. But then it was converted into a commercial loan and then 3 companies were considered. One of them was disqualified. One of the remaining 2 companies were awarded the contract and then after that they decided to award the contract to both companies. There was a 19 billion rupee difference between the engineer's estimate and the price that they were going to give it at. But that project is now ongoing. So what I have to say is that this is how the government is carrying out the tender process without transparency when it comes to these large-scale projects.
මේ ආණ්ඩුවේ මේ විශාල මහා පරිමාණයේ ව්‍යාපෘතීන් වල ටෙන්ඩර් පටිපාටි අද ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙන්නේ.
Convening a media briefing, the Government Medical Officers Association made a request to the President today.
We expect the Health Minister of the country to think in favour of the citizens. There have been many irregularities when he imported medicinal drugs. The COPE committee will reveal those irregularities in the future. Medical Council is established to determine the rights of patients. There have been many indirect attempts to enroll foreign graduates to the Medical Council who had not even passed the advanced level examination. The lives of the patients are at stake. Taking all of this into consideration, it is clear that he will not be accepted as the Health Minister by anyone. So I request the President to take the Health Ministry under his purview.
A close ally of Makandure Madush named Kasun Dananje, alias Vedikande Kasun, was arrested this morning. The arrest was made when the Midihana Police Special Operations Unit conducted a search operation in Vedikande Kirpatgoda.
It is alleged that the suspect is connected to an incident that took place on the 5th of November 2018 in the Pannipitiya area in Maharagama, where a group of people had entered a house as police officers and attacked its owners with firearms and stolen gems and diamonds. The suspect is also accused of abducting a foreign national. The abducted person, who was to purchase the stolen gems, was later found in Maharagama while the suspects had fled the scene. The 31-year-old suspect is to be produced before the Nugegoda Magistrates Court tomorrow for an identification parade. Meanwhile, court has granted permission for underworld gang member Disanayaka Chanidu Chanilka Sankalpa alias Raina to be held in detention for further questioning. The order was issued when the suspect, who was arrested by the police special task force, was produced before the Maliga Kanda magistrate today. Information from the suspect has revealed that he is a close associate of underworld gang leader Keselwatte Dinuka. Police say 14 underworld gang leaders have been arrested in Sri Lanka following the arrest of Makandare Madush and several others in Dubai. Accordingly, 12 allies of Makandare Madush and 2 allies of Kanjipani Imran have been arrested so far. Additionally, investigations are underway by the Terrorist Investigation Division relating to the property acquired by these arrested drug offenders.
Speaker Karu Jayasuriya has informed State Minister Ranjan Ramanayake to inform him in writing regarding the use of drugs by MPs and ministers in Parliament.
A senior spokesperson of the Parliament said Ranjan Ramanayake had informed the Speaker regarding MPs who used drugs via a telephone call before, following which the Speaker had requested for the information to be handed over in writing. The spokesperson added that the Speaker is ready to take further action regarding such complaints and will hold discussions with party leaders in this regard after an official complaint is handed over to him.
Today is the Navam full moon Poya Day, where Lord Buddha announced that his Parinibbana would take place within 3 months.
Lord Buddha's quality of rewarding a person what he deserves was clearly depicted on a day like Navam full moon Poya Day. The appointment of the 2 chief disciples of Gautama Buddha as Agrashavaka, namely Sariputta and Moggallana, took place on a Navam full moon Poya Day. The first ever Buddhist Sangha conference was also held on a full moon Poya Day like today. A puja was held at the Sri Shakyamala opposite the head office of the Capital Maharaja organization. This time the puja was organized by the MTV Channel Private Limited. The 47th Janapati Sadham Yatra Dhamma sermon was also held today at the Saddharmakara Pirivan Temple in Pinwatta, Panadura. President Maithripala Sirisena attended various religious observances and also joined to listen to the Dhamma sermon. The final Navam Perahera of the Hunupitiya Gangarama Viharya commenced at the auspicious time of 7:20 this evening.
The Perahera saw the participation of President Maithripala Sirisena, opposition leader Mahinda Rajapaksa and several other dignitaries. The highlight of this festival is the colourful elephant pageant when the streets of Colombo transform along with decorated elephants.
Stay tuned, we'll be back after this short commercial break. Welcome back to the news. Parliamentarian Chandimavira Kudi convened a media briefing today and clarified matters on the program to be implemented for media institutions in the country.
The MEND program, Media Empowerment for a Democratic Sri Lanka, is a strange program to control the media that is conducted through the funds obtained from the US aid. This is a good move. But who are they trying to do this with? They are using the media institution Sri Lankan Mirror, owned by Ruan Ferdinand. These people were with our party as well in the past. We got together with them at that time and carried out election media campaigns with them. These people coordinated the media. The United National Party has begun the process to get private media institutions in line for their future political campaign by employing the services of this media institution that coordinates the media campaign of the UNP and by promising payment to other media institutions for their development. This is a dangerous situation. We make a request from the US Embassy. If they really want media institutions to work for the democracy in the country, do not carry out this program with media institutions that are dedicated to coordinate media campaigns of political parties.
The foundation stone was laid for the 3-storied building of the Shri Vishnu Dorama Temple in Debaravavatisa Maharamya under the auspices of Minister of Housing, Construction and Cultural Affairs and Deputy Leader of the United National Party, Sajit Premadasa.
The foundation stone was laid for the building, which will be constructed with a cost of 6.5 million rupees, while marking the opening of the Sir Ranasinghe Premadasa Pirivana. The golden fence at the temple was also revealed during the event. A gold-plated Buddha statue, which was gifted to then First Lady of late President Ranasinghe Premadasa by Zen Phai Thero in Thailand, was also placed there.
I would like to remind what your father said back then. What he said was, quote, "My son should come to politics by staying the queue. He won't be able to move forward if he is brought to the forefront just because he is my son. My son should walk by the pavement and understand the people, gain their respect and should face their problems. He can only come forward if he faces such problems." That's what your father told me that day, and it has become a reality.
සම්බුද්ධ ශාසනය රැක ගැනීම දේශපාලන වදනක් කරගන්නේ නැතුව
We are going to implement a silent religious development program without making a Buddha Sasana a word of politics or by politicizing it to achieve a political goal. We will implement a 10-year project to develop all temples in the country with the strength and support of the President and the Prime Minister. In the future, we will also implement a program to develop temples in the country with the guidance of the bhikkhus.
Data released by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka shows that tourism earnings have increased by 2.2% in January.
The data reveals Sri Lanka earned nearly $458.4 million in January this year, compared to $448.5 million during January last year. Sri Lanka welcomed nearly 244,239 tourists, up 2.2% from 238,924. This year, the country hopes to attract more than 3 million visitors against the backdrop of being ranked as the #1 destination to visit in 2019 by Lonely Planet. To achieve this, Sri Lanka needs to grow at 28.5% on average. However, the performance so far has been poor, with a growth of just 2.2%.
Inspector Kapila Nishantha De Silva, who was arrested over the disappearance of 2 businessmen in Ratgama, has been remanded until the 27th of this month after he was produced before the Galle Magistrate Court.
On the 23rd of January this year, 2 businessmen named Manjula Asela and Russian Chintaka were abducted by a group of unidentified individuals. Relatives and family members of the missing duo have continuously alleged that the 2 businessmen were taken by a group including individuals clad in attire similar to that of a police uniform. They stated that on the 5th of February, the Assistant Superintendent of Police in Galle, Satish Gamage, had claimed that the 2 businessmen were in the custody of his department. However, on the 14th of February, he had rejected such claims. An anonymous letter received on the 6th of February had informed the businessmen's families that the duo had been kidnapped by a team of policemen attached to the office of the Deputy Inspector General of the Southern Province. The letter revealed that one businessman had been beaten to death while the other was also murdered for witnessing his murder. After the respective letter was aired by Newsfirst, all investigations relating to this matter were handed over to the Criminal Investigations Department upon the instructions of the Inspector General of Police. Meanwhile, the van belonging to an individual named Pas Anura, whose name was revealed through the respective letter, was taken into police custody. Police Inspector Nishantha De Silva, who is attached to the Police Special Investigations Department in Galle, was also apprehended yesterday by the CID. Meanwhile, Senior DIG of the Southern Province, Ravi Vijay Gunawardhana, has been transferred temporarily to the police headquarters.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News on TV1 for tonight. To follow details of these stories and more, you can of course log on to our award-winning website www.newsfirst.lk. I'm Charlene Benedict.
And I'm Azra Hassan. Take care and good night.